Alrighty, let's get started. You can grab whatever color you'd like to create the border. And so what I'm going to do is I am going to start not at the very edge, start slightly in, and then pull my arm across and stop before I get to the other side. I will start where I left off here and drag my arm across the paper so I get almost to the other side. Start where I left off, drag my arm across the paper and stop before I get to the other side. And finally, start where I left off and drag my hand across the page until I end up where I left off. This is my border for my Persian rug. And I can add a pattern. We have a few different things that we already know how to make. We know how to make straight lines, zigzag lines, and wavy lines. So I am going to start out by making a diagonal wavy line in my corners. A pattern repeats, so I have to do this more than once. In fact, I have to do it more than twice. I have to do it 3 times or more in order to make it into a pattern. I also know how to make a zigzag line, so I am going to make a zigzag line all the way across my border. Zig, zag, zig, zag, zig, zag, zig, zag, zig, zag. Zig, zag, 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 zig, zag. Notice how I turn my paper instead of trying to twist my arm. This will allow your arm to stay comfortable while you learn how to draw with good craftsmanship. That means neat and tidy. I'm not done with my border pattern yet. I could also draw some geometric shapes. Remember though, that you must repeat this again and again and again in order to make a pattern. A pattern repeats. And right now the pattern that I'm making is a circle in every single zig of my zigzag. The circle is called the motif because that's what repeats. I could also make some vertical lines. I know how to make vertical lines. They go straight up and down. Now, if I make them on the side of my rug, they will be horizontal lines because they will go side to side. I'm not turning my paper this time, just to show you the direction of my lines. Back to horizontal, side to side. You also know that you can color in shapes. Coloring in shapes is not scribble scrabble. You actually have to find the shape that you'd like to color, Go around the edges and then fill in the center. Around the edges and fill in the center. And so on. And since I'm making a pattern, I need to do this for all of these green circles, because if I left some empty, then the pattern would not be complete. Once I have this strategy down of coloring in the edges and then the center, this goes really, really fast. Now I'm ready to make my design in the center. I have asked you to use patterns that go in rows across the rug. And so you can use a vertical orientation such as this, or a horizontal orientation such as this. And I think you can see better if I do vertical, so that is the example that I'm going to do. In order to make sure that I do the same pattern for all of the rows, I am going to pull my arm across with this crayon and create space where I will be drawing my patterns. And now I can decide on a pattern that I would like to make. We know a few different kinds of lines, shapes, and those sorts of things, so I am going to choose one of those. We also know how to make squares and rectangles, so I am going to do a pattern of rectangles here. But I'm going to make it a little bit more interesting, and I'm going to skip a line and then repeat my pattern. Because I can make a pattern of my patterns. If this is filled with rectangles and this is not, these two different rows together become the motif for my pattern. So now that I know I've got rectangle row, empty row, I can do it again. Rectangle row, empty row. Rectangle row, empty row. Rectangle row, empty row. But unsurprisingly, I do not want to leave it so plain. I do not feel like I've done enough wavy lines in this Persian rug inspired drawing, so I am going to do that in these blank rows. Wavy horizontal line. And since I did that here in this blank spot, I will also have to do it here to complete my pattern. Wavy horizontal line. Wavy horizontal line. Wavy horizontal line. And I can definitely make it a little bit more fancy by doing some coloring. Whatever coloring you do, though, will have to be repeated. And so, I am going to color just the top of this wavy section in every other row. I almost messed up. But if you mess up and you don't have a perfect pattern, you will just know to fix it next time. I feel like that's a little bit scribble scrabbly, so I'm going to get back in here and color in the edges of this pattern so that it doesn't look too scribbly. I can always tell if someone has bad craftsmanship because their coloring is scribbly. Scribbly coloring is not good craftsmanship. Good craftsmanship is neat and tidy. And you are training yourself to have good craftsmanship in all of your art. Let's see, what else does it need? I think that what I'm going to do as my final step is just to color in every other rectangle. So I'm going to go blank, colored in, blank, colored in, blank, colored in. But now I'm committed to it because this is a pattern that I need to repeat here. I think what I'm going to do to make it a little bit interesting though is I am going to switch the pattern here. Instead of starting with a blank one, I'm going to start with a colored one. It's still the same pattern of blank and colored in rectangles. It just switches. And you can see that I have not been exact in the number of rectangles I use, nor am I exact in my coloring, and that is okay. Our aim is good craftsmanship, but that doesn't mean that you have to get upset with yourself if it doesn't have perfectly good craftsmanship. We're just getting better every day. And there you have it, my Persian inspired drawing. Have fun with yours.